Good morning, church. Thank you, Mike. Excuse me? No, because we don't have a portable mic. So no. Wow, it's so nice to see you all, I think I have to tell you something before I forget, and I will forget at the end, so please, I'm asking someone to remember that just after the service, we just have to take a picture of all of the whole group. How about this? Good idea? All right. It's so great to see you here. Although, in Christian theology, there is no such thing as Christmas. Christians were celebrating Easter, right? And some people say that it's all paganism. The Christianity took Christmas from paganism. So what are we doing here? Oh, it's Sabbath. But why are we speaking about Christmas? Maybe we shouldn't do it. But why today? It's all paganism. Okay, you know what? Let me just start over, okay? Because that was my Polish nature. Now let's do it with American style, okay? Good morning, everyone. Happy Sabbath. Hey, you know what? We have a Christmas. And you know what? I will give you one good reason why we as Christians should keep Christmas. How about this? So let's think about this. This is really something, Christmas is a really important day for all the Christianity. And you know what? Some people may say that it is all taken from paganism, and it is not true. And it's actually a fact that this is not true, okay? Historically speaking, when we compare pagan beliefs and early Christian beliefs, we see that it is actually pagans who were taking a lot of our Christian beliefs and they adopted them to their own pagan beliefs. Did you know about this? This is actually true. We have a lot of similarities, but we have proofs that actually they took it from Christianity, not Christianity from them. Interesting, right? But I will give you one good reason why I believe we should celebrate Christmas. And this reason is that it's because one of the first things questioned in Christianity is the humanity of Jesus. And this is actually true. This is one of the first things in Christianity that was questioned by first Christians. Because we had a lot of Christians who were converted to Christianity from the Greek culture. And in the Greek culture, you are like, okay, we have gods, we have human, but God becoming a human, and God who is giving his own life, and God who is both human and God, this is something that they just couldn't accept. The Greek way of thinking was sacrum and profanum. Sacrum, it's all that is saint, and profanum, it's all that is profane. So they were saying Jesus couldn't be both sacred and profane, because these are two worlds that cannot connect. So they were saying Jesus was not human. This is one of the first problems that early Christians had, that they were saying Jesus was not human. Actually, that's the reason why John, when he wrote his epistle, he wrote, this is 1 John chapter 4, verse 2. He said, by this you know the Spirit of God, every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. That was their problem. There were Christians, the followers of Christ, at least they were saying that they are followers of Christ, who were saying Jesus was not born in flesh. And John is saying Jesus was born in flesh. And that's what we are doing. That's why we are here. We are celebrating the fact that Jesus incarnated, that Jesus came. He was born as a little child. He was growing in Nazareth, and he was one of us. And he was one of us. But what significance does it have for us? And I think that there is a huge significance for us. Because you know what? Even among Adventists, there is plenty of Adventists who are saying that, oh, you know what? Yeah, Jesus was born in human flesh, and it means that he also had a human nature, the Adam's nature from after the fall, and yet Jesus was sinless. And so so they say Jesus had a human nature of Adam from after the fall, and he was sinless. Therefore, we not only can be sinless, we have to be sinless. And we have Christians, even Adventists, who are saying we have to be sinless. On the contrary, we have Christians who are saying, no, 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 no. Jesus had a human nature of Adam from before the fall. And yet he was, and of course that's why he was perfect, and so on and so on. And I was thinking about this so many times that I can tell you no one is right here. Only I'm right. But let me explain you why. And this is actually something that I understood today morning. I was just thinking about the sermon, because you can take my note, and in my notes you will see that Jesus had a nature of Adam from before the fall. This is in my notes. But today morning I just understood that he didn't have Adam's nature from before the fall. Do you know why? Because he had God's nature. He had God's character. Because it's Adam who was created in the image of God, not God who was created in the image of Adam. Do you understand? So Jesus, when he was born, he was here. He had a human flesh. But he had his godly character. How do we know that he had his godly character? Because that was the character of love. That was the character of faithfulness, right? He had a perfect character. He was selfless, right? That's why we know that he had God's character. And you know what? Jesus is God. Right? That's why he had, and he actually still has God's character. So when we are speaking about God's character, Jesus' character, I have absolutely no doubts that he had God's character. But there is something new. There was something new for Jesus. He had to learn how to be obedient. This is Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8. Although he was a son, he learned obedience from the things which he suffered. He had to learn obedience. And actually the word learn, it actually means learn from practice. To practice something, and that's how to learn how to do something. So there was something new, just because he had to learn how to be obedient. And you know what? There was also something new. Today, during the Sabbath School, we were speaking about God's, the wrath of God. The wrath of God is totally different than a human rage, okay? You know why? Because you know what? We are human. We have our human flesh. And what is connected with our human flesh, and people didn't know about this 100 years ago, is that our human flesh is ruled with our hormones. Right? You know it's true. You know it's true. And Jesus, when he became God in human flesh, probably for the first time in his existence, he felt how hormones work. Think about this. When Lazarus died, what Jesus did? Well, he did a lot of things, but what is connected with his hormones? He cried. Oh, why did he cry? He knew that he is coming there to bring Lazarus to life. So why did he cry? You know why did he cry? I will tell you, okay? So when someone is dying, your emotional reaction is cry. Why? Because your oxytocin is telling you you are attached to that person, and that person is not here anymore. Okay? Your cortisol level is going extremely high, and your serotonin and dopamine are getting lower. And that's why, and it's all about hormones. And Jesus, because, God doesn't have human flesh, so he was never influenced by hormones. And suddenly, he has a human flesh, and he is influenced by hormones. That's so interesting. At least for me, that was so interesting. That's why when John the Baptist died, what was Jesus' reaction? He just ran away. He didn't want to speak to anyone, right? He had to go to the wilderness. Jesus felt anger. That's adrenaline. Jesus felt joy. That's endorphins. He felt threatened to the level that he was sweating with blood. That's cortisol. That's cortisol. So just by the fact that he was God in human flesh for the first time in his life, he was under the influence of hormones. Isn't it interesting? He never felt this way. He was never like this because God doesn't have flesh. Okay? And what's more, he felt hunger, he felt tired, he needed to spend some time alone. So maybe Jesus was an introvert because he needed to spend his time alone. He was raised in a poor family. He had to learn how to be a hard worker. He was probably mocked by other children in Nazareth because Nazareth was not the best place to raise your children. And yet he was there. He was probably mocked by other children when he was a child. He is one of us. And this is so amazing when you are thinking about this, because this is truly human God. And this is exactly what the book of Hebrews is saying. Chapter 4, verses 14 to 16. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let's hold firmly to our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weakness, but one who has been tempted in all things just as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let's approach the throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace for help at the time of our need. Jesus, he knew it all. He experienced everything that we experience. And you know what? He didn't say, hey, you know what? I went through it and I made it. So from now on, I am expecting from you to be perfect as I am perfect. He didn't do it. Jesus is saying, I went through the same experience that you are going through. And that's why I know what you feel. And that's why I feel compassion. And I love you, and I will support you, and I am doing everything that is possible to save you. So please, trust me. He knows, because he is God in human flesh. Jesus is one of us. He understands us. He loves us. And all that he says is, I understand. Please, stay with me, because I love you, and I want to spend the whole eternity with you. Do we want to spend the whole eternity with God? Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.